Hello, hello, friends. Welcome back to the Awakening Her podcast. How are you doing today? I'm so happy to be here with you. If you are new to the show, hello, hi. My name is Talia Joy. I am a coach, author, podcast host, intuitive guide, all the things. And on this show, which I'm really excited that you found, we talk all about what it takes to create meaningful change in real life. So whether you're coming from spirituality or self-growth or healing or manifestation or just really good old-fashioned personal development, you are someone who is growth-minded. This is what we talk about here on the show, and we really focus on making it real, making the changes real through the personal growth, through the healing, through the spirituality, through the desire for more. This show is about taking everything you've learned and making it real with tools, with insights, with education. It's so fun. So I'm so glad that you found the show. And today is part 2 of our series. If you've listened to the first one, awesome. If you somehow listened to this one first, it's all good as well. But I really do feel like the 2 parts go beautifully together. So in the last episode, we talked about the fear spiral and how we can get stuck in fear, but how fear is a lot sneakier now sometimes than it used to be. It's not just, whoa, I'm scared, this is obvious. I dove into how fear wears different coats and how it can be kind of sneaky, and just my offerings and tools on how to navigate this. So that's what we talked about in the last episode. This one is about the possibility spiral. And this is one that most people that come across my work, most of my clients, they're unaware of it. Even if they go immediately like, yes, that is me, it's something that they weren't totally aware of. I've even had lately fellow coaches and friends in the industry write me just saying, like, when you talk about this possibility spiral stuff, it's so fascinating. It's totally resonant, and it's something I didn't have words for. So I'm really excited to talk about this because we can be stuck when we're afraid, as we talked about in the last one, but sometimes we get stuck in too many ideas, so many dreams, so many possibilities. We really are going to unpack today what's underneath that, and most importantly, how to ground down and start to move forward. So again, so excited for this episode, and I'm so glad you're here with me for this moment. So before we dive into all of that, if you have not grabbed a copy of my book, The Delicate Art of Transformation, you are going to love it. I know you will if you love all the topics that we talk about here on the show, and you are that person that's been through a lot of self-growth, self-discovery, healing, all that, and you are looking for that next level to make the transformation real. You are going to love the book. There are tools and insights and storytelling, and we follow the path of the caterpillar into the butterfly, which I know is probably something that resonates with you anyway. So if you have not grabbed a copy, do that down below. My Amazon link is down there, as well as my other books, including journal practices, self-growth book, a manifestation adult coloring book called Manifest This Shit. And it's just a lot of fun. So you can check out my Amazon store down below. And also, if we are not friends on Instagram, come on over to Instagram, come find me, let me know that you are watching. I'd love to connect. This is where I hang out most outside the podcast. So really excited to see you over there. All right, I think that's all I have for you. Let's dive into today's episode, but first, take a deep breath. Drop your shoulders, maybe take a sip of water, and let's dive in. So what if within the areas of life or area of life that you feel a little stuck in, what if you weren't stuck just because of fear? Maybe you've actually worked through a lot of stuff and you're gritty and you're resilient, and of course fear comes up, but maybe that's not the full picture of what's having you feel like you're ready to move forward, maybe more than you have been, or you're ready for results and you've been ready for a long time in an area that you've not yet stepped into. So I just kind of want to say before we go forward, when I'm recording, when I'm teaching, when I'm talking to you guys, I want to use the word stuck, but I hate the word stuck because I know you, and I know that there are so many places in your life that you are a go-getter, that you've overcome. I always say this every show. It's like, acknowledge the shit out of yourself for what you've already moved through. And I don't like saying like, are you stuck here? Are you stuck there? Because sometimes I am just so hungry to move forward that I don't want to talk about why I'm stuck anymore. I just want to move forward. I just want the light. And I've explained this before on the show where, there's two aspects to everything. There's the light part and the dark part. And when it comes to your goals and your desires, there's the light part of the, where you're headed, what's next for you, your next step, results, success, receiving, abundance, right? There's the light part of what you want. And then there's the darker part, which is almost like where I'm stuck, where I might not believe in myself, what's been going wrong. And it's good to focus on the crunchy stuff for a bit, but I am not a teacher. I'm not an author. I'm not a coach. I'm not a human that likes to overly focus on like, are you stuck? Does your life suck? I have the answer because I know your life doesn't suck. I know you're not ultimately stuck. And that's the other part I want to say is you're not ultimately stuck. Even if you feel like you are, I'm not going to reinforce that because you are powerful and you are actively right now moving forward, even if it doesn't feel like it. So if I use the word stuck here, it's almost just because I have to pick a human word. And so if I'm like, maybe you're not stuck in fear, maybe you're stuck in possibility, I just want to say that the word stuck has a lot attached clearly. And I ultimately know that you are such a powerful person. So if you are feeling that crunch or that resistance, or you're just like, okay, ready for my next step, here we go. This is what I'm talking about with like, ready for your next level and not quite there yet. Okay, now that caveat, that disclaimer is out of the way, this is what I wanted to say. Maybe we're not just stuck in fear. Maybe we're stuck in possibilities. Maybe it's not just about extracting another wound. Maybe the fact that you're not receiving as much abundance, or you didn't get the job, or something's not working the way you wanted it to, maybe it's not about like the abandonment wound, or, oh, I'm playing small, or, oh, why am I scared? Sometimes we actually just have so many possibilities that it's overwhelming. So we talked about fear in the last episode, and this is the other pattern that is just as important and often, as I mentioned, just not brought out to the light. People are not aware of it, especially self-aware people like yourself. So the people that I see in this pattern are self-aware, are often creatives, visionaries. They're deep thinkers. They're people who genuinely want to create something meaningful in their lives. People who are growing, people who are learning. You've probably overcome certain things like addiction or mental health struggles or being in, toxic dynamics or changing your life. These people are always expanding. These people are filled with possibilities. And if you're that person, I see you because that is me. And if you've come from a manifestation place, a quantum place, a spirituality place, you may have also stumbled across the belief or the awareness that anything is possible for us in the quantum, that life is always responding to us in this moment, that molecules are responding to our energy field, that possibilities open when we shift our energy. That's the essence of manifestation, beyond the fluff and beyond the everyone's selling a course on it. It's really about you can create the things you put intent focus on. You are a deliberate creator. So whether you're coming from a place of building your confidence and going, you know what, I could do anything I want. I could leave this relationship and then what's possible for me? Or I could quit my job and start a business. Should I do this business? Should I do that business? I could take a class. I could learn something new. I could travel. Maybe you're someone who's all of a sudden stepping into that and going, oh my gosh, there is so much possible for me. Or maybe, as I said, it's energetic or spiritual and quantum based. Either way, when you are in this space of growing and learning and expanding and knowing of the possibilities, sometimes we stay in thinking, in imagining, in downloading, in waiting for a sign, waiting for clarity, as we touched on in the last episode. We can stay in dreaming. We can stay in visualizing. We can stay in planning. We can stay in imagining. And none of these things are bad. In fact, we should do all these things during our whole journey. We should always be in imagination in our mind and research and planning and having fun and moving forward, right? But again, like I mentioned in the first episode, the distinction is if you are not moving into something that is deeply meaningful to you, or you for a while have gone like, okay, it's time. Maybe you've set sort of personal deadlines for yourself that have come and gone, or you're just hungry for it and gritty and ready. If you aren't taking the step forward and starting to experience new aspects of life, starting to experience change, then maybe you are living in this possibility spiral. Because before we know it, we can be mentally living in 10 different futures, and it feels like there's so many possibilities and all the tabs open in our mind of what's possible and the different businesses we could create or the different things that could happen. And that causes overwhelm. So we're going to get more into this in a second, but let's talk about even a little bit more about what it looks like, because the possibility spiral isn't often negative. And that's a key discerning thing too, is the fear spiral. We often feel like fear and associated feelings of fear, which doesn't feel good. Possibility can actually feel exciting and inspiring and creative and expansive. And I see this in, I call them my multi-passionate entrepreneurs. I see it where it feels like there's so many ideas and so much expansion. They don't want to pigeonhole themselves into one idea. They don't want to, do this one thing and have that feel like they're pinching themselves off, which is totally fine as well. I am like a freedom-based seeker and I cannot just do one thing my whole life. But again, if we're not moving forward into something that's important to us and on our heart, it is time. And if you're relating to this, it could be because you're almost stuck, again, there's that word, in possibilities. Because we all have things we want to create. We all have places that we want to go and businesses that we want to build and projects that we want to start and ways that we want to grow. And every one of them often to my clients feels possible or feels important. It feels like a different aspect of themselves. And eventually our brain starts carrying more possibilities than we know what to do with. And this causes overwhelm. And this is the part that isn't talked about enough. And this is the part that was a complete blind spot for me for like the last 10 years. So in the last 1 to 2 years, I've become much more aware of this as I've focused on my own nervous system healing and grounding and all of that. But for the 10 years previous, while I was in my business and so focused on self-growth and taking so many seminars and flying to see Tony Robbins and taking all these personal development courses and getting my life coach certification, and all these things, I wasn't aware that I was in a constant overwhelm. When we have too many possibilities, too many ideas, and too many futures all at once trying to be held, just more like physically in our nervous system, it becomes too much. So the nervous system, when something becomes too much and it goes into a stress response, a lot of people describe it, or I like to describe it as too much, too fast, too soon. So when something happens that feels too much, too fast, or too soon for your system to process or handle, that is what causes different types of trauma in the nervous system, but even just a sympathetic response. So we want to fight, flight, freeze, we shut down, we bolt, we numb, whatever. So even though possibilities are such a good thing, when we have quote unquote too many, it kind of overloads and frazzles our system. And then we start to function from overwhelm. Because I want you to think about for a second, especially if you're an energetic person, every possibility requires energy. Every possibility, whether it's the different type of workouts you could do or the different directions to take your business or, where you could travel in the next year, every single thing takes energy, attention, decision-making, mental bandwidth. So when you're simultaneously or constantly considering having a business, moving cities, changing chapters, launching a project, writing a book, improving your health, taking a certification, your nervous system doesn't experience that as exciting. It experiences it as like, whoa, 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 that's overwhelming. So when you're all like, I'm going to redesign my life in all the ways, that is such a good thing. And with my clients, I'm never going to like dumb down the possibility, the seeker, the knower of how many directions this life could go. That's a beautiful thing to hold, but we need to learn how to ground it, how to work with our nervous system and our body so that we're not in that functional freeze for weeks and months and years while being so inspired, but not being able to actually ground it into reality. So what's interesting is from the outside, it can look like procrastination. And this is kind of the same as why I don't like to say stuck. It can look like stuck. It can look like inconsistency, a lack of motivation, procrastination, self-sabotage. But what's really happening is overload. Your system is trying to process so many possibilities at once. So imagine you're standing at a trailhead, okay? And you want to get to the top of the mountain and you're not quite sure which one gets you there. And there's not just 2 trails, there's not 3 trails, there's 50 trails. And every trail looks interesting. When you start to gaze down each trail, you're like, that one has a stream, and like that one looks like an easier path, and like, but that one looks like it's straight up to where I want to go. Every trail has potential. So your brain is trying to calculate in pros and cons 50 paths at the same time. That's exhausting. That's very, very exhausting to our system. So if you feel like you're so overwhelmed or tired or exhausted or fuzzy or unclear about what's next and taking steps going forward, but you're also so inspired and open to possibilities, this is exactly what's going on. When my clients come to me and they're in this spiral, they're often mentally tired, scattered in some ways, feeling restless, overstimulated, unable to focus, pulled in multiple directions. And again, it's not because of anything wrong or a lacking in ambition. Like, it's actually the opposite. We're trying to hold too many futures simultaneously. And it's almost like I want to describe it a different way, but I feel like you also get what I mean. It's not that we can't do all these things. It's not about like in the totality of your life that you can't do all these things. It's about how in just this present moment, you can only do one thing at a time. So if you're in your car, you're in your vehicle driving, you can only be driving in like one direction at a time, right? You can put the wheel left and then now you're going left. You can go right and now you're going right. You can go back and forth, right, left, and your car's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But in any one moment, you're only ever going left or right. And that's the thing, and I've talked about that in the past when we talk about this now moment, is you only ever are doing one thing at a time, even though it feels like we're doing a million things. And even if you're someone who's currently multitasking, you're listening to this and you're also doing the dishes and you're also, but in one moment, we are doing this present moment. Kind of sounded sexy for a second. And that's all. So when it comes to possibilities, it is overstimulating to process 50 trails at a time, to try to hold the business and the health and the this and the tomorrow and yesterday and what's for dinner. Like that gets overwhelming, especially when it's about your future and what is possible. So eventually your nervous system starts craving certainty after all this chaos. We start craving, or our system starts craving, simplicity and grounding, even if you don't realize it. And that's when we're in like, okay, I need more clarity, or I need more ideas. I need another idea. But actually, what you really need is less input, less possibilities. So let's just, instead of saying, like, for clarity, we're not canceling the possibilities you already have. Let's take all the possibilities you have, everything we've talked about in this episode, all the things you want to do, all your ideas, all your everything, and let's just cap it right there for this moment. So we take all of those. When you look at all of that you've got in your brain, that you've got on your heart, that you've got in your third eye for your life, what you want for yourself, what you see for yourself, you don't need more. You don't need more ideas or more, like, as if you're lacking imagination or ideas. Sometimes we get clarity and we hone in on an idea, but you really don't need more. You've got a tree filled with apples. We don't need more apples. We just need to start deciding where to pick. Oh, as you guys know, if you've been around, my metaphors, they land hard sometimes and sometimes they face plant. That's pretty much it. What we do from here is, as I said, you don't usually need another course or certification or more reading or another strategy or another, podcast or, another idea. Often what we need is grounding. And I know it sounds simple, but grounding is incredibly powerful. And I don't just mean putting your feet on the earth for a second. I mean grounding your whole energy field, being able to ground into this time in your life and steadily, steadfastly move forward. Because possibilities are infinite, but your energy isn't, your attention isn't, your time isn't. At some point, we need to stop gathering possibilities and start choosing. And this is why I love what I do. I love supporting clients in this because this is usually the time clients come to me. They don't always realize what's going on, and I help them to see these things. But often they don't need more ideas. They have lots of ideas. They have lots of possibility. They need clarity. They need grounding. They need perspective. The intuitive guidance I know always really hits home. But what they often really need is grounding, tools, nervous system support, and someone to help them sort through the noise. And this is what we need to do when we're in this possibility spiral, is to identify what is actually aligned. And this is really important. What keeps returning? We need to look at your core values. What's important for you? What feels next for you? What's been pulling at your heart for months or years, or what has that special glow around it when you think about it? What aligns with who you are? What aligns with your future? What aligns with your soul, which is something I can see with my clients and with people. What feels expansive in your body? What feels like the next aligned, inspired, in spirit right step? Not the entire roadmap, not the next 20 years, but the next step. And often we need to slow down, not maybe go to another book to find the answer or whatever else. Slow down, because the answer is there, buried underneath the possibilities. And I mentioned in the last episode that something really beautifully happens when we just start taking action, even micro actions. We start to gain confidence. So I want to use an analogy about exercise and health, because I know that, a lot of my clients, even if it's not the main thing they come to me for, it's a journey, and we're, always wanting to be healthy and in our body and all this. So maybe you're looking to exercise, you're looking to get more fit, feel more healthy in your body. And imagine sitting at home trying to choose or put together the perfect workout. You haven't even started yet. You're thinking walking, yoga, maybe you're building squats and lunges, you're building some routine at home. There could be cycling, you could do weights, you could do Pilates, there's that dance studio down the road. What about rock climbing, swimming? Have you tried paddleboarding? Are we running? Remember you used to run? That was fun. And because there's so many options, you end up doing none of them. And this isn't shame, this is in love. And if it's not about exercise for you, maybe there's something else that's similar. And the answer is not finding the perfect workout or discovering that whoa, Pilates was the thing the whole time. It's not about the perfect workout. The answer is movement. The answer is putting your shoes on. The answer is starting where you are with what you have. And once you're moving, you start gathering information. You start getting more clarity. So you could just go for a walk right now. You could, do the lowest, the term low hanging fruit. It's what's the easiest thing you could do? Do you already have a membership to the gym? Do you already go to a yoga studio? You could go to a class today or tomorrow. You could go for a walk. Maybe it's a beautiful day and you live near a lake. You could go to the ocean or go to a lake. Discover what you enjoy. You don't have to gather more information from this point. Often it's movement, and then you gather the information as you go. You discover what works. You discover what doesn't work. So if you've been listening to this and thinking holy shit, this is me, or you're seeing parts of yourself in some of the things that I'm saying, I just want to reiterate, even though I know I've already said it, but I want to reiterate, there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's not like you can't focus or you don't have some sort of strength or willpower or whatever, right? You're definitely not self-sabotaging and wrong and bad and too much and unable to focus and all of these things that we tend to say to ourselves, right? Your language might be different, but I know that sometimes, you may have that inner dialogue being like, okay, what the heck? Like get your shit together, decide, pull a plug, do the thing, make the move. But I want you to know that I see you as somebody who has a beautiful capacity to imagine what's possible. And that is actually my favorite thing about somebody like you. These are my favorite people to work with because you know of the possibility. And having the quote unquote problem of so many options and so many inspirations, in my perception, just purely from my perception, I think it's a better problem to have than no ideas, than feeling flat, than having nothing that lights you up, no inspirations, no possibilities, right? So even if we feel overwhelmed sometimes with how many possibilities there are, I would rather deal with this than having no possibilities. So the work from here becomes learning how to ground it. And so the two things I would recommend you do: first, let's work together. Over 2 months, we will ground this. We will move you forward. We will have you taking tangible action moving forward, taking all of these ideas and grounding them. And what you can also do is learn how to prioritize, learn how to choose. But the prioritization needs to come from what is deeply aligned with you. Not just like, okay, write it all down, fucking pick a thing, do it. It's gotta come from a deeper place. You need to ask yourself some really important questions about what is important to you right now. So the work becomes learning how to prioritize, learning how to choose, learning how to trust yourself enough to take that next step, which requires, putting some of that healing work into action, trusting yourself, regulating your nervous system so that your nervous system is coming from a steady place, and realizing that possibilities are seeds. I'm seeing it in my mind's eye right now as a garden filled with seeds. And a garden doesn't become a garden without seeds. It actually becomes a garden because we plant the seeds and we nurture them and they grow. So all of these ideas and notions and dreams and inspirations on your heart are seeds. They are seeds of possibility, and I want to acknowledge you for that. So it's time to ground, it's time to prioritize, it's time to think of, as I was mentioning, like the low-hanging fruit, the small things you can do right now to just start moving, to put your boots to the ground, to not necessarily try to crack the code in your mind or try to discover the next step or take another course or do the thing, to make you ready. You are ready. It's time to prioritize, it's time to pick the low-hanging fruit, it's time to do the thing, it's time to choose. And how I recommend you choosing is by asking yourself, as I was saying, some deeper questions about what's next for you. So take a deep breath with me for a second as we wrap up this episode and start to ask yourself, am I potentially overwhelmed by possibilities? Do I wish to ground them and start to make my dreams a reality? Which ideas keep returning? What dream has been on my heart for a long time? What desire feels the most hot and alive in my energy? What aligns most deeply with my values? What aligns with what I want moving forward? Where am I being invited by life to choose? And what is a step that I could take today that would move me toward what is most important to me? A tangible physical action that in some ways is no big deal, but is something that moves you forward. All right, my love, I hope this resonated. I hope that this 2-part series helped you. And just remembering that the fear spiral says things like, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm taken advantage of? What if it fails? What if I get what if I'm let down? That type of thing. And a possibility spiral says, oh my goodness, like I could do this, this could work, that could work, this could work. I don't know. What about that? What about that? So in some ways, different pattern. But the outcome from this and what we're really talking about is when we feel frozen by these spirals, when we feel frozen by these states, when we aren't moving. This is when usually one of these two things are happening. We're either stuck in fear or we're stuck in possibilities. And both are completely workable. Both are human. Both are signs that you are on the edge of something huge. Both can be transformed into momentum. Both are completely normal and things that scrappy, growth-oriented people experience all the time. So you're doing a great job. I acknowledge you for everything you've been through and where you are today. Thank you so much for being a part of this episode and listening to this 2-part series. All right, I will see you in the next episode. Have a great day, my friend. Again, if you haven't checked out the book, check that out below, as well as come and find me on Instagram. Let me know you're listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Namaste.